Hello everyone, welcome to STV Theater. Today we are doing film and review. We did Predator, now we have to do Predators. Plural, more than one, like Alien from Aliens. I have with me, as always, my faithful companion, the Bill Ward to my Batman.
Sound it out.
The Bill Ward to my Adam West. The Robin to my Batman, the S to my Predator, Eric Bell. Say
That's
hello,
me.
Eric.
Hello.
Hello.
So Predators, plural.
Right, I said that too. I was like more than one. It's like Aliens, or like the alien from Aliens.
And there's more than one.
Right. I mean, honestly, that right alone. Like, when you do that for a sequel to a movie, like, Alien had the best sequel because, like, the title alone, it didn't have to be, like, Alien 2 or, like, anything like that, but it was just, like, Aliens. That told you everything.
Yeah.
Like, this is, like, too little too late. Like,
right.
Like, there has been... So, there was Predator 2, which we haven't watched yet. Have you ever seen that one?
I have not seen.
Okay, so we'll have to get to that someday. That has Danny Glover in it. It's really, it's worse than this, kind of. So we have Predator 2, and then we went into, like, they started doing, like, Predator vs. Alien, and they did, like, Predator vs. Alien Requiem, and that was, like, whatever. And then this movie came out, and there's been another movie since this movie, and then there's a new movie coming out called Prey, that is also a Predator film. And that one's like tied into like Native American times and stuff, so that's kind of interesting. But I digress. So Predators, obviously, like I said, too little, too late. Like, this should have been the sequel. Like, Predator 2.
Something like it, yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, like we'll get into this, but like Predator 2 takes place in like, so the whole thing with Predator 2 is like he's in a jungle, the concrete jungle, so like he's in like a city. Like, that's the whole big appeal of Predator 2, which is not a bad way to ramp it up. Like, oh, let's take him out of the jungle, put him in the concrete jungle, and like, now he's in the city, like, super dangerous. This, again, you had never seen this one either, right?
Right.
So, we kind of started off the last review pretty straightforward, like, so good, bad?
Yeah, I thought it was middle of the road-ish. Like, I've seen way worse movies than that. It wasn't absolute trash. You know, the effects were still pretty good. The storyline was pretty good there.
Oh,
like,
man, you're being generous.
I am being generous. You know, I like to be that way because, you know, sometimes movies can get really, really, really bad, and this I wouldn't put it too far down there. It's watchable. I don't know if I would go out of my way to see it again.
Yeah.
But if it's on, like, in the waiting room of a Jiffy Lube while I'm getting my oil changed, I'm not going to complain.
I would say if it's on in the waiting room of me in the hospital, in the emergency room, I would ask them to turn it off. Because this movie, I mean, my God, man, this movie. So, I have things I like about this movie. It's a hard one to start with. Like, so, the movie starts off with, it starts very abrupt. Dude just plummeting out of the sky.
Yeah.
You know, and that's meant to be, like, shocking, right? But, like, there's something even about that sequence where, like, that's already over the top to me. Like, so the way the first Predator starts is, like, very subtle. Like, there's a ship, and you're like, we all know ships, we all know aliens. Like, we're like, okay. Ship in space, poops out smaller ship. Interesting. Like, what's going on there? And then what's great about that is that you kind of forget about that as the movie starts. Like, when you're watching the first Predator, you're kind of starting to get into, like, to Dutch and his crew and, like, what's going on and all this stuff. And then, like, you start seeing, like, some things unfold, and it's very subtle. This is, like, right out the gate, they're trying to shock you. And it kind of falls flat. Like, no pun intended. Like, because I know, like, there's... So, dude's falling out of the sky, and this is played by Adrian Brody, who, in my opinion, was horribly miscast in this movie.
Yeah, he was the whole character he played felt very try-hard the entire time. It felt very unnatural for him to seem quite so badass because he just looks goofy. Like I expect him to say something quirky and funny and like he and Foreman are like in the same vein of kind of character that I would imagine them playing. But
True.
But Brody is this hyper masculine. You can follow me if you want to live kind of guy.
Right.
It's just like, man, I don't know if I trust following you.
Big nose, pretty big nose, decently sized nose.
Big nose, big ears, goes with the big ego. You know.
But not with the big muscles. I feel like yeah, we made a cocaine joke. I'm pretty sure. But that's the thing, right? So Adrian Brody falling out of the sky, he immediately starts like hitting his chest because there's like this weird mechanism on his chest, right? And one thing I thought that was really interesting, it's like this little like triangle like beeping mechanism on his chest, and his first instinct was to start hitting it. And even if you let's just as an example, like, all right, he's parachuted before, like he's obviously like a military guy, like he's jumped out of planes,
right.
Whatever. What parachute do you know deploys by you hitting a button on your chest?
Right?
Why is
like,
that his instinct? Like he's like slapping this thing trying to deploy a parachute that he doesn't even know if it could be a bomb that you're gonna set off. Like,
yeah.
So right away I have issues with this movie because there's a lot of things that are done in this movie for our sake, the audience sake. And we're going to get into like the callbacks to the first Predator that have nothing to do with this movie whatsoever, but are just there because we're the audience. And like, so he's trying to deploy his parachute and it's beeping because it's going to just auto deploy. It auto deploys like in the last second before he hits the canopy treetop. He goes plummeting through the trees and slams on the ground, and then boom, we have credits. Predators, excuse me. He immediately wakes up, not dead. He has a gun, he has ammo. How none of these things also damaged him or were damaged in the fall, I'll never know. Guns are strong, but they're not that strong. Like, I mean, it's just... So there's a lot left to be, like, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief already. And granted, we're talking about an alien movie fighting people here, okay? Like, I get it.
Right. It's sci-fi, but
right.
Like, there's something left to be desired in the elements of realism that you would expect to be maintained.
You would think, because, like, remember we talked about the other one where it had, like, some good realism of, like, these guys came in on a chopper. Like, it's obviously, like, it's like having G.I. Joes, and, like, each guy has his own little idiom, and that's fine. They're characters. But, like, they all have gear. There's great scenes of them, like, gearing up. And this, he just lands on his back with a shotgun on his back and doesn't break his back. So, I already have issue. But he wakes up next to Danny Trejo, who is playing Danny Trejo. And...
for all of 15 minutes.
I mean, honestly, like, so there's nothing else I can say about it, but what is his name? TREJHO or HJO or Trejo, something like that.
I have no idea.
So, and he's got his hands in his pockets, or as I like to put it, his hands on his machine guns.
At all times.
At all times. He has never taken, I don't know if he took his hands off those guns, like, once through this whole movie. Like, honest to God. But he wakes up next to him and he immediately gets mad, and he's like, whoa, what'd you do to me? And he's like, you got the wrong guy. Like, I didn't do anything to you. And he speaks in like Spanish and stuff and says like "chingao" and stuff like that, which is weird. They immediately are interrupted though because they start getting shot at with a minigun from like across the woods, and that's another immediate callback to the first Predator. Minigun, like. So now you're going to tell me that another guy landed on his back, most likely as well, with a huge pack of ammo and a minigun, and didn't die.
Yeah, duh.
Duh. Like, these are things that make me so mad. Like, we're just supposed to not pay attention to that. So right away, these are the issues I have with this movie, because this movie treats the audience like they're idiots, and that all we care about is just like, oh, let's just get them in a jungle. And let's get some aliens going, you know, and granted, I know what we're here for. I understand. But the whole first movie had a stupid trope of like a cabinet minister, and just like all these different things to like try to draw you into what was going on to make sense of why these people were here. This movie literally has no reason for them being there, doesn't even tell you how they get there. It literally like ignores your intelligence and just being like, nope, they're here, deal with it. Like, this is your movie.
Aliens, they brought them, now they're here and they're being hunted. What more do you want to know?
Right.
We're gonna get off this planet. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Fucking. So minigun shooting at them. He somehow, I don't know if it's the minigun guy is a bad shot or if Adrian Brody's just that fast, but like he doesn't get hit by minigun bullets. Neither of them do. The bullets just miss everywhere. Adrian Brody sneaks up behind him. He's like, "You're shooting the wrong people." And it turns out the guy's Russian. He's like, "How do I know that?" And he's like, "Because we wouldn't be having this conversation." It's just like, all right, Batman, like, just calm down. Turns out Nikolai, the Russian, I don't know who he's played by. I've never cared to look it up because I've never seen the guy ever in anything else since. So, for the sake of all intents and purposes, he is Nikolai. That's who he is. New character introduced, and he's like, "Show me the right people to kill." So they all start kind of walking. Or no, they don't start walking. They immediately see the girl.
Yeah.
So we have another girl in this movie. What are your thoughts on her? Different, better, worse than the original girle? More of a purpose?
Suspiciously more clothed than I anticipated.
She uses some clothes as the movie goes on.
Some, I guess, but I will say the plot line stuck from the last one in the sense that everybody's wet all the time.
Yeah, it's very shiny, very sweaty.
But I guess it is a nondescript jungle. We did get the description of the jungle from the first one. They are officially located in Guatemala, which for the time period makes sense.
I guess, yeah. And it was kind of like referenced in the material we looked up. So 87, Guatemala. That's what we know. That's what happened.
About the last movie.
Exactly. About the
now,
last
we're
movie.
on a nondescript jungle, on a nondescript planet. Like, it very well may be, like, its own fucking moon. You know?
I kind of think it is, too, yeah.
Like, maybe it's like a forest moon of Endor kind of thing, where, like, that's just a hunting ground.
Oh, if only Ewoks could have been in this, dude. Please, I mean, if only they could have fought predators with Ewoks and their little like stones and stuff, like that would have made this movie 10 times better. I would have loved that. Adorable. So they meet her, and we don't know her name or Adrian Brody's name, their character names at this point, and we don't find them out until the end of the movie. And to be quite frank, that's a bad move. Because now I have no vested interest in either of these characters. There's something in a name with a character that you begin to identify with that character. And when you identify a name with a character, even Mac from the first one, we understood who he was specifically. Like, even you were like, oh, I just called him Sergeant until I found out his name was Mac, or I remembered his name was Mac. But now we know it's Mac, like, because they called him Mac through the whole movie. Now we have Adrian Brody, who we don't know who he is, and then this other lady who we don't know who she is. And they all start traipsing along with Danny Trejo and Nikolai. They immediately come across what appears to be a convict, because he's wearing his orange jumpsuit. And then he's fighting some, like, South African guy. Like, that's the best description I could give. Like, can you think of a better one?
No, he was pretty South African.
He was pretty South African, right? Like,
that's for sure.
I mean, so they're fighting, and it's no real reason why. I mean, I'm sure some racial slur was thrown or something, like.
I mean, I don't know if you noticed, the guy had an SS tattoo on his arm.
True.
So,
true.
Like, I mean, shocker, he's a murderous convict. So.
Right. So let me just add that to my picture here. He had an SS tattoo. Pretty boring stuff already, to be honest. Like, you know, this movie is meant to be, like, again, so I think this is whoever directed and whoever wrote this is their idea of subtle. And this is their idea of also just, like, trying to get into the action. But so far I have characters I don't care about. And they're just there as filler. These are all characters that are meant to be like almost like in a way carbon copies from the original movie. And regardless of any argument anyone ever wants to try to make to me about this film was meant to try to piggyback off of the not, I don't want to say success, but just off of the love or the, you know, the nostalgia of the first film. Just that classic feel of it and stuff. And like they started, like, so we have the girl, and like we have our Arnold Schwarzenegger and Adrian Brody, We have our minigun guy. We have these other two characters who are honestly just fuck off characters. Like, that's all they are. They're there to die. And that's kind of, in my opinion, it could be like jokey guy and, you know, average guy. And then they end up hearing like screaming, or no, they talk to these guys and they're like, you guys want to tell us what the hell's going on? And like, they're like, you know, we don't know. And he's like, oh, strength in numbers, huh? And they're like, something like that. And that's it. Like, it's like, all right, so I guess we'll all just hang out. And it's like, honestly, if you were me, and if I were Adrian Brody, and he like does make the comment of like, I work alone, then I would just go off alone. Like, you know what I mean?
Why bug them of like, well, if you want to survive, follow me. If you really just want to be alone, use your words. Be like, no, fuck you guys. I got this on my own. You guys.
This movie is the equivalent of your mom dropping you off at daycare and you don't want to go. Like, all these people are just like, oh, I guess we all have to be friends today. Like, it's the dumbest thing. There is no reason for any of them to defend or fight for each other. And you can make arguments about what this movie does try to do later of, like, humanity and all this kind of stuff. But no. You're also talking about a mercenary, like all these lone wolves, more or less.
Yeah.
Who were, by the way, they were all plucked because later we find out they were all chosen because they're predators in their own world. So there's no humanity in these people. These are the people that we don't care if they live or die. And that's exactly how the movie treats them. And then I'm supposed to actually attach my feelings or ego or whatever and care about these characters towards the end when I don't give a flying F. And so they find the guy in the tree and he's screaming. He's like, help! Like, get me down from here. And lo and behold, it's Eric Foreman. Turns out... Yeah, and like you said it best, you're like, it's Foreman, and I was like, it's Eddie Brock or Venom, and you're like, he's Foreman in every movie, and that's exactly it.
He's Eric Foreman in every, even when he, I mean, are we talking about how he ends up now?
Like, we can get there.
Okay, because
I know where you're going with this.
Even how he is as Venom is how he is in this movie, and he's still just Foreman. He's Foreman with a twist, always.
Foreman
and anything
with a twist
else.
of lime. Yeah. That's a good drink, I bet. So yeah, so they meet Eric Foreman, and you know, honestly, it's like when he like falls into the water and stands up out, like when he's like, oh help, I'm like, help me, I'm like he's drowning and he stands up. I swear to you, in my mind's eye, my mind's ear, I heard Red Foreman being like, dumbass. Like, it's like literally what I heard. Like, so. There we have Foreman. He's, you know, he was hanging upside down in a little tree. And so now he's like, I'm a doctor. And it's like, well, he's out of place. And then they immediately note that, too, like later on when everyone's together finally. So there's the troop. We have Eric Foreman. We have Nikolai, Danny Trejo, Adrian Brody. We have Con Man. We have South African. We have the girl. That's our group of people.
Nope.
Am I missing someone?
Missing Yakuza.
Oh, right. See? Now, and this is what I like.
It's because he was so quiet.
He was so quiet. And he is probably my favorite and the best character in the movie.
I would agree with that. He's the most... the aloofness of him and the lack of background story for him.
Right.
It's weird because it doesn't really leave that much to be desired because, like, that's the point. Like, you're not supposed... Like, everybody else's secret is just like, ooh, but, like, they're talking, but they won't talk enough. They won't say enough, right? Yakuza guy does not talk until they get into the main, the sheltered area, and then he talks. And then he doesn't say anything again after that.
Right.
Like that's the only time he talks, but that's all he really needs. I really liked his character too. I thought it was a little bit of a random shoehorn in. Like he didn't really add a lot. Like true. He really just was another body to be picked off.
Right. Well, and so with significance, like he has the only significant death in my opinion. Well, Russian guy kind of goes out like a boss too. But yeah, right. So the Yakuza guy, Danny Trejo, Adrian Brody, the whole gang, they're all walking around. And the lady's like, you know, hey, we need to rest. And he's like, well, then go ahead and rest. And she's like, well, you look like you're tired too. And it's like, go fuck yourself. You're looking at his back. You can't tell. Like, so then he's like, look, he's like, I'm not doing this. He's like, I'm not going to, he's like, you want to be scout leader or whatever. And he's like, I'm, you know, I work better alone. And it's like standard So what's great, and again, another thing that separates the two films and why one is better than the other, we didn't need anybody to say I worked better alone in the first movie, because no one worked better alone in the first movie. Schwarzenegger was forced to work alone in the first movie because everyone else was killed. Other than that, they worked well as a unit. We saw them take out the guerrilla camp and stuff. Like, that's the whole point, is that they were an organized unit and the Predator still picked them off one by one. That shows the prowess of the Predator.
Yeah, they all seem to be kind of inadvertently fighting against each other while trying to fight this other thing together. And it made everything muddy, and it made them all as a unit cumulatively weaker.
Right.
Because there's too many heads to keep an eye on, and that's how they can get picked off one by one, and there's not great communication, and they don't know how to work together or anything like that. Because like in the first movie, the battalion was like they had already worked with each other before they all knew each other. This is a completely like ragtag game of randos that all got put together like it's fucking PUBG or whatever.
Right.
And like you either
it's like playing one of those games with somebody that doesn't have comms.
Yeah.
It's like I fucking hate playing these games when no one has a mic.
But it's they hurt themselves by staying together, I think, more than they do if they had been on their own. Granted, I think a lot, like probably most of them would have died at the same rate that they had had they been together or not. Like it just some of them may have even been survived even longer because they weren't all bunched together all at once for them to be able to pick and choose which ones they wanted and when and how, instead of having 3 predators try and take out this mass group of people. Because, like, then other, well, we'll get to that.
Well, and so that's the thing. So they stop, and she's like, you want to see something fucked up? And he's like he has this moment of just like, like he just doesn't even care. And then she shows him the compass thing, and she's like, look, like, there's no magnetic north here. And he's like, well, between that and the sun. And he's like, we have a real problem. And she's like, well, what about the sun? And he's like, it hasn't moved. And you and I both made a comment being like, well, the sun doesn't move anyway. Like, we move around the sun. The planet spins, so that's irrelevant. But, you know, that's just me being a nitpick. But, so between that and the sun, it hasn't moved. So then they start kind of, they continue traveling into the jungle. I'm not sure how long of a rest that was, but whatever. And then they find this cage. And they come across this cage that has, like, a parachute, like, draped over it. Like, it's, it just landed there. But it clearly looks opened already. They pull back the drape or whatever and see that the cage is empty, and it's like clearly they're like, something here was dropped like us, and someone's like, not like us. And then they all look up, and you see like a plethora. There's like 20 cages just like hanging from the trees.
In an open canopy. It's like wide open. It's not like they were hidden.
No, they were all like zeroing in on one cage, like guns drawn and all this stuff. I'm like, what if there was one in any one of these other cages and you didn't notice it until just now? Like, that makes that. Everyone is stupid. Everyone is stupid. That's the gist of this movie. The whole crux of this whole thing is like everyone is just stupid enough to not see what's going on. This is almost as bad as Schwarzenegger figuring out that the thing was using the trees, but even that I could kind of let go a little bit. But this was just like, it's literally all around them. They noticed it 5 seconds later.
Yeah.
So they end up like, that's when the dogs come. And so like, and that's kind of an interesting. What do you think of like some of the creature work in this movie?
I thought those dog creatures were a little
weird, right? Like
they were weird, and I feel like
trying too hard.
I felt like they were unnecessary. I get what he was saying about like, just break us apart, see how each one of us works, and like all that, whatever. Like sure, but like. Predator didn't do that in the first one. They didn't need to do that. Like, why do they need to do that this time?
And these dogs had like weird little spikes all over their bodies.
Yeah, like I didn't really see much of a point to that other than to add more like upfront action instead of this like more built up tension that the first movie provided, where there was just lot of stalking, not a lot of fighting, a lot of finding dead bodies, not a lot of killing yet. A whole minute worth of shooting at something to kind of fill that void. We didn't have that in this one.
That's a good point, actually. And well, I mean, we kind of got a little bit of that with the first dog running at them and how they all just like unloaded their weapons. It wasn't a minute, but like they didn't. I mean, the dog was right there and they weren't. The guy with the minigun was just like spraying his minigun like left and right and just missing this dog entirely.
I wrote down shot a lot, hit not a lot.
Shot a lot, hit not a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
like that.
Everybody unloaded a lot, and not a lot of things died for how many things they shot.
And just as a side note, you made a really good point too, that how Adrian Brody looks like Bear Grylls, and I just thought that was really funny. Like,
he does.
That was really, really funny.
He was like 2 breaths away from drinking his own piss, I swear.
Right, just eating some banana slugs and calling it a day. So,
I mean, he did pick up the dog shit off the ground, eat it, and
did
be like,
nibble
"They're
some
this
dog
way."
poo. Yeah, he did nibble. He's like, tracks go up this way. You had to pick up the poop and eat it to find that out? Like, I don't understand. So, in order to see the tracks on the ground, you first had to consume some of the animal feces. I get it. Like,
Yeah,
makes
dude.
sense. You had to be one with them. So that's the thing, right? So they all like come really close, and like these dogs come and they get whistles and stuff, and they get whistled and they get brought back or whatever, and then that's what he's like, everyone do a shell count, and like we gotta conserve ammo after you just wasted like thousands of rounds probably hitting nothing. So then he tells everyone, like, you know, we're being hunted. This planet's a game preserve, and you know they flushed us out like you would if you were hunting boar or quail or whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know, they watched us. And so it's at that point that they also kind of like come across that whole trap sequence, which also harkens back to the first movie. Like, that is another sequence that was there specifically just to remind us of the first movie. And that's the problem again. We keep coming back to them like rehashing these ideas from the first movie. And while you could try to again make the argument of like, this is all about, you know, it's an homage, you know, it's about knowing where it came from, and it's like, no, it's not being original. It doesn't know how to create its own context. So there.
Well, it's struggling to itch the same scratches
Right.
that the first Predator was able to do, but it can't do it without doing it the same way. They can't figure out a way to make it have the same feel, but not be boring and feel like there's a lot of shit tossed in for not a lot of good reasons.
Well, so you're gonna tell me that soldier whose dead traps they found had all the time to carve all those little spikes that fell down from the ceiling? Like, you're gonna tell me that when she's sitting here saying like, I don't know this jungle, the topography's not right, it can't be like whatever jungle. Like, so this guy had the wherewithal to still use these alien, foreign, natural objects around him to fashion all these traps. Like, the thing is like that's where this movie goes awry. Is like the way we conceive of alien planets is far too similar to our own, and I think that's so dumb. Because then they also come across like that flower, and Eric Foreman comes up and he's like, oh, Rectifructus lugimnincia, or whatever the hell the flower is called. He's like, super poisonous. It's like, how the fuck would you know that, and why would it look anything like the flower you're talking about? Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, even if it doesn't look like it, so now he's just guessing? Big problems with that. So they...
Fucking Foreman.
Yeah. So they come across the dead guy's traps, and they talk about, like, oh, the trunk was a deadfall, the trunk that set off the trap, and it was meant for something much bigger. And so then they find the dog poop, and Brody's like, oh, you know, like, this is their jungle, their game, like, you know, it wants us to run. So we're not gonna run. We're gonna go and find it or whatever. So they track the dogs back to like the camp of the predators, and that's when stuff kind of gets. It's like one interesting moment that happens there where they come across the totem, and there's like a predator hung up on the totem, and that's like our first reveal of the predator. Now, that is a disappointing reveal because, while again I understand from the story perspective of where that ends up going, that being the first reveal of a predator in this movie is kind of stupid. Especially because we already know they're being hunted by predators, but yet our first introduction to a predator in this movie is like, it's hung up, and it doesn't make any sense. You and I were still questioning, like, so what did he do wrong? Like, why was he in timeout? Like, so we have a predator like on like a very Jesus pose too, which is kind of weird.
Jesus Christ pose.
I mean, honestly, so we have a predator like strung up. And then, so Brody sees the girl kind of react a very specific way, and I don't know if you kind of picked up on that, but like he looked at her like really hard, the way she was looking at it, and she kind of like averted her eyes in a very the way she looked, she conveyed it really well as an actress. She kind of gave like a holy shit, no way kind of look, and we find out later why, but like he slowly like backs away, and it's like backs out of frame, and it's meant to be subtle, but it's like you notice him. Like it would have been better served if they just did like a cutaway and then cut back and he wasn't there, because you wouldn't have noticed it as much. So he backs away and like kind of baits them all into it. The stupid Russian guy, Nikolai, goes up and pokes the thing. Like you said, like why not throw a rock at it? Like why do you have to get so damn close? Like
you think it looks dangerous as fuck, and you're gonna walk right up to it and poke it with a stick?
I mean, you've already seen the dogs. You now come across this humanoid thing, and your first instinct is be like, well, let me get a little closer and take a look. Like, I don't care what kind of military training you have. If I saw something like that hanging from a totem or a podium or whatever, I'd be like, nope. I'd start slowly backing away and be like, we need to get out of here. Like, that would be my call. So, ends up, you know, they were lured in. Brody, like, kind of, like, sees what they're dealing with. It's like a bunch of predators start attacking. The South African guy, dead. He's done. He gets, like, some spikes.
Yeah, he died in a bullshit way, too.
He really did.
I thought he could have been so much more useful. He was a great character. He had good wit. And lots of, I don't know, I liked his character a lot.
Well, and he was very much like the Billy character almost. Like him and the Yakuza guy are like a Billy character split apart, because they both notice more about what's going on than anyone else at first. Also, I forgot to mention that Danny Trejo also is dead at this point. He was killed during the dog attack.
I said, the first 15 minutes.
Right. And again, so forgettable that I even forgot he was missing when they mentioned him. Like, oh, we're missing somebody. And I was like, oh, right, I forgot. And the Predators tried to use him as a trap, but it didn't work. So then, South African guy goes out like a bitch. He just gets, like, stabbed for no reason by, like, spikes that come shooting out of the ground, I guess? Like, I didn't really notice what happened there. He just got impaled somehow.
The spikes shot out of the ground. I don't know exactly how they got triggered, because, I mean, I know it got triggered somehow, presumably by the other Predators, because, like, they didn't get baited into the base. They tracked the things into the base, but Predators obviously trailed them into there.
Well, I guess that's what I meant. Like the Predators basically saw them coming.
Yeah.
So then Adrian Brody unloads and shoots and stuff, and they all start running, and then they run, and then they, oh my god, fall down a hill, because that's, you know, I mean, where else could they go? Like, how else could they? What's funny to me is, like, it's like you write yourself into a corner as a writer. Like, how are they going to outrun the Predators? Well, they don't. They fall down a hill. Like, they don't have to outrun them, because they roll faster than they run, apparently.
Gravity helps them.
So then they fall and have a very reminiscent fall into the ocean, or into the water, like Arnold Schwarzenegger's fall. His was better, in my opinion. He fell down like 2 waterfalls or something. Like, so they go falling down, and then suddenly they're just like on this under rock carriage thing. And the Predators just don't pursue them. Like, the Predator, like, there's, like, a drone that flies over and, like, kind of sees them in the water. But the Predators are just like, we'll leave it. Like, we'll just wait till later. Like, they wait so long, in fact. So then they talk about, they're under the rocks, and they talk about, like, you know, the girl punches Adrian Brody, and she's like, you set us up, and all this stuff, and, like, you left us there to be bait or whatever. He's like, I need to see what we were dealing with. Like, and so... he's like, why don't you tell him what you know? Like, you know what that thing is or whatever. And then that's when she's like, 87 Guatemala, and like tells the story of Schwarzenegger. Basically tells the story of a better movie. She sums up a better movie. Talks about.
You guys ever see that movie Predator?
You ever seen Predator? Okay, where have you guys been? So she talks about the Predator, and she's like, the description that the soldier gave was the thing on the totem, and it's like, okay. Based on, you just try to describe Predator to me right now. Try to describe what a Predator looks like.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, they're scared. They got like a spider claw mouth, and they're creepy looking. They got giant heads, like they're like almost bobblehead.
Right.
Big heads.
Okay, bobblehead.
But and I noticed the difference between like the.
So like a mouth like a spider, or just like a mouth that looked like a spider?
Do
you see how difficult this is?
It is. It's very tricky.
How the fuck was she able to discern that the thing he described was what was on the totem? Describe a Predator to me, and then I'll tell you if it looks like what I saw. Like, it doesn't... Like, even if you were like, it had 4 mandibles, how are you supposed to know what that... Like, And not only that, something else that bothers me about her knowing this information, how is she the only one who's heard this debrief? Like,
she's Guatemalan.
Maybe, but Adrian Brody's like, you know, mercenary military. He probably knows like every dirty secret in America. You know what I mean? Like, how is she the only one who's ever heard the story of the nuclear bomb that went off in Guatemala? Like, it's weird, man. It's really poorly written. Like, overall, the movie is poorly written because all of this stuff leads to them trying to hunt down these things. He's like, we can get them in overlapping fields of fire, and we can kill them, we can set up traps, and we'll kill them all. And it's like, yeah, whatever. They end up trying to set up traps. They find a whole different one that looks like, I don't know, like a female version or something. It's just like kind of like gray and like it's got like buggies and stuff on it. It's like cockroaches. They shoot that thing, but it turns out like the girl missed, and he was like, "That's a hell of a shot," and she's like, "I missed." And then like they all like get freaky, and then we get our like 50th fucking call back to the first movie when it's like over here, and that's what Mac was saying to Carl Weathers to the CIA guy. He was like over here, and then the whole turnaround when he stabs him and gets the scorpion off his back. Yeah. So then they hear the turnaround, and like Adrian Brody's like, "Fuck, I got snuck up on. Like that never happens to me." Like, and so they turn around, and it's a predator face, and it like the decloaking thing happens, and then Adrian Brody ones up the first movie again. Instead of saying "What the hell are you?" he says "What the fuck are you?" Like, ooh, you're using big boy words. He said the fuck word, right? Using that rated R really good. So he says that, and then, oh my god, big twist, Eric. They take off the Predator helmet, and who is it?
It's Morbius.
It's Morpheus. Lawrence fucking Fishburne.
I was close.
You were close. You were close. Morbius. Lawrence fucking Fishburne. And he's fucking out of his mind. Like,
oh yeah.
Probably, like, so this is where the movie takes a huge left turn. The weirdest detour for this movie to have, because they not only got away with killing the little gray insect carrier thing, then they meet up with him and he's like, "I smelled you when you first landed here." Bullshit. He's like, "I could hear you too." Bullshit. You were nowhere near them. And then somehow he's supposedly at the camp too, but whatever. So he's like, you know, they're like, "How did you survive out here?" and all this stuff, and he's like, or they're like, "Who are you?" or whatever. He's like, "I'm the one that got away." And it's like, okay. So he's like, "Follow me." Would you follow this man?
Hell no.
Right, even if I was in this situation, I'd be like, "No, I'll take my chances, thanks." Like, so they follow him. He takes them to, like, I don't know, a ship that's just like crash landed. I think he said it was like a drill that someone brought there a long time ago. I think that's what he said.
I have no idea.
He takes them inside. It's like his little base. And he's got like stew cooking. Like, what are you eating? What are you eating here? He's got stew cooking. He said there's water there too, which I'm like, where? So you what? Did you lug gallons of water to your little base from that's like sitting on the top of a precipice, like cliff? Like, I don't understand. He tells them he's been there for 10 seasons. We also don't know how long a season is. Like, that doesn't give me any bearing of time. Based on his mental state, I feel like, okay, that's like 10 years. Like, because he's out of his fucking mind. He's talking to himself and like talking to someone who's next to him who's not there and like all this weird shit. And he kind of like lays it all out for them, which is also kind of weak. That's like really weak ass stuff to be like, oh yeah, they have like you know, they can see in heat vision and they can like, you know, and he has like stuff that can block that for whatever reason. Like, he's got like armor that blocks his heat signature, and like he killed 3 of them, he thinks. And it's like, okay, like, I don't understand it. And then Brody's like, hey, so you say they keep coming back, like, what do they come back on? And he's like, they come back on a ship. And Brody's like, oh man, like, I want to go fly that ship, basically. Like, he's just like, that's my ticket out of here. And Lawrence Fishburne kind of like mocks him and is like, oh yeah, in all these years it hadn't occurred to me to like go commandeer the alien vessel, you know, like, he's like, but you know how to fly it, of course. And he's like, I'd take my chances. It's like, oh, you'll take your chances with an alien ship, but you're not going to take your chances out in the wilderness instead of going with crazy loony bat here? Like, I don't get it, man. As much as I love the first Predator, this movie not only just really drags it through the mud, it is not a good predecessor at all, like, or not a good continuation. It ham-fists so much stuff. Then we get like a weird, I guess, love interest between Brody and the girl.
It's so vague.
So vague.
It's so vague. Like, I liked the vague gay shit from the first movie.
Right.
More than this.
It's very ambiguous.
This is like, cheesy and blah. Like, last one, Mac carved a guy's name into a pig. Like, that's love.
That is
Dude,
love.
like, that is, I'd carve your name into a pig, buddy.
I mean, you know, I would
I'd think about it.
I would probably write your name on a piece of paper. Like, I don't know if I go out of my way to carve your name on a pig.
I'd carve your name in a tree, I guess. I'm not gonna be a psychopath about it.
Right. So then, big twist. Lawrence Fishburne. He's a bad guy. I mean, is he a bad guy or is he just an opportunistic like guy?
Is there a difference in this situation?
I guess not, right? So he basically comes to find out like, oh, like they're like, oh, he's a scavenger. Like he wants what we have, and that's Eric Foreman's line, by the way, which is like, yeah, he needed stuff to do, so let's make him the exposition guy. Like
he realizes this,
right? So he tries to like smoke him to death, I guess. I think that was his plan. He like starts a fire in his own home and like tries to like smoke them all out or whatever, and like make them pass out. I'm assuming.
Give away the position to his one base.
His one base.
Creatures that he's been hiding from for 10 seasons.
Which, by the way, when Brody like blows a hole into the thing to try and like attract the attention of the predators, which that's what he says his intention was, they're like right outside. Yeah. Like they're not even. It's not like they heard the explosion from like a mile away or like their little drone caught it or something. Like no, literally like yards away. They're like just like wandering around outside of this base. Like shit, I know we're close. Like like should we check the old drill? That thing hasn't been operational in years. No one would go there. Like super stupid. So then they go inside and like finally Lawrence Fishburne has his comeuppance, which is like honestly I wish the movie was more about his time on the planet surviving. Because then it would have been more of a payoff for when he finally got killed. Because he was just like, you finally found me, big dog? And then he just gets eviscerated, like right on the spot.
Or like if the movie had been about him and his survival entirely. Like, instead of Adrian Brody and this whole ragtag gang of what the fucks, like it's Lawrence Fishburne with a bunch of whatever the fucks and how they all get killed and how he survives.
Right, like and imagine if the movie was like a flash forward, right? So like it shows him and his group landing and then they all just get wiped out, but he somehow survives through all this like means. And then like a flash forward happens, it's like, even if it was like, even the nondescript time passage of like 3 seasons later. And like you see him like gristled and like really panicked and like paranoid and just all that stuff, like that would have been an interesting movie.
And then he comes across
these people, right? Yeah. That dang man.
Then he can either decide, do I help them in survival, and then we can all get off this place together, or
do I make more soup?
Exactly. Do I make more
soup? So that would have been an interesting movie. He dies. They it all fast tracks from that point. Like this is like the equivalent of the fast track like before Schwarzenegger takes it on by himself. Like so one by one they start dropping. First the Russian guy drops off because Eric Foreman gets lost. The Russian guy goes back to try and save him. He saves Eric Foreman but then sacrifices himself to the Predator and blows one Predator up. So we're one Predator down and Nikolai's dead. So that's the first thing that kind of happens there. So then after that, Foreman, Yakuza guy, convict guy, and the chick and Brody get out, and then for whatever reason, after the explosion by Nikolai, the convict guy's like, we killed it! And it's like, you didn't do shit, you just climbed out of a hole. So I get that he's a stupid character, and we'll get to him in a second, but like, why would he say that? Like, we killed, like, you didn't do anything. Like, he literally didn't do anything. He doesn't even have a gun this whole movie. Yeah. Like, he didn't do anything. So he's like, we killed it, and then he gets shot in the back. Predator style, like with a phaser or whatever. And it turns out, like, so then it's the big bad Predator guy, and like, he's standing there, and then convict guy's not dead. Surprise, surprise, he was wearing that, like, flak armor or whatever, that flak jacket. Yeah. And so he jumps on the Predator, and he's like, he just starts stabbing him, and this is his redemption moment. He sacrifices himself so everyone can get away, and he says that. He's like, go, run. And that's kind of a good moment if he wasn't such a skis ball.
Right, if he wasn't such an absolutely terrible human being that you didn't already want to be killed. As if the movie didn't tell you that to begin with because he was going to be executed in 2 days before he was brought to the planet.
Right.
Like, when he shows up, I'm just like, dude, I already want this guy to be the first one who dies. Like,
yes.
What the fuck? Like, and they just make it worse. Every time he opens up his mouth, I'm like, you're such a disgusting person. How are you still alive?
Well, and the thing is like, so earlier on, he's like, oh man, I can't wait to get back home. I'm gonna do so much fucking cocaine. I'm gonna rape so many fine-ass bitches. And it's like, cool, great. I hope he has a good character arc later where he sacrifices himself for the crew. Like, that's not what I'm thinking when I see this character.
It's not even redeeming.
And then
he has
no, he has a tattoo of his sister on his stomach when he's like, this is like Samantha Lee or whatever. He's like, tits like howitzers, and he's like, they're like, oh, is that your girlfriend? He's like, no, it's my sister. And it's just like, oh, even better. Twist the knife in my back, why don't you? Like, nothing redeemable.
Until you die?
Right, nothing redeemable. So like, he buys them a couple of seconds. They all go running off. So now it's Yakuza guy, it's Brody, Chick, and Foreman. For whatever reason, and this is why Yakuza guy is the other half of Billy, because for whatever reason, he just stops when they're in the middle of a grassy field. He found a katana sword, that's right. He found a katana sword when they were inside of Lawrence Fishburne's place. So he has the katana sword, he stops in the middle of a grassy field, and he just kind of has like this look of like, I got this. And Brody's like, yeah, whatever. And like just kind of like runs off with everyone else. He's like, cool. Like, noble sacrifice, dude, cool. So Predator shows up, and this is a good scene.
Yeah,
this scene is
my
actually
favorite
cool.
fight scene, the whole movie.
Easily, because Predator actually like I don't know, like he
feeds into it. He's like, all right, we'll do this hand to hand. I'm not just gonna like smoke you from 50 yards away like I absolutely could.
Right.
Like, let's see how this hashes out.
He's like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. And so they have like a nice little back and forth, little tit for tat. They get a little scratch, and then basically, I think there was a great moment there where like the Yakuza guy like realizes like, okay, I have got a finishing move for this guy, but it's also gonna probably kill me too. So like he knew if he got close enough, he could get him, but he knew he would be too close and he would also get got himself. So he goes in, he does his nice little belly slice, and you see Predator fall over in the background. And Yakuza guy is kind of like standing there for a second. I remember, what did you say? You were like...
I was just like, there's no way he doesn't die.
Yeah, you're like...
There's no way he survived that.
Like, he survives that? And I was like, And then sure enough, like, Yakuza guy, he did. He falls over, X's in his eyes. But it's still best fight scene in the movie. And definitely, like, more... in a weird way earned, I guess. Because he picks up the sword inside Lawrence Fishburne's place, and he's like, they've been doing this a long time. And then that's when Eric Foreman comes up and he's like, you speak English? And the guy's like, yeah. And he's like, why don't you say more? Which is the stupidest fucking line of dialogue ever. Why don't you say more? Like, what? Like, how about, what's your name? Like, what do you... Like, you find out someone speaks English...
We don't even know his name!
Right!
We never learned his name!
You find you find out someone speaks English, and your first thought is, why don't you ever say more? Like,
oh my god.
And then he holds up his hand. This whole time, the guy's been missing 2 fingers on his hand, and he's like, because I talk too much. And it's like it's a little chuckle moment between the two of them. Which also makes the character even more badass. Now I want a whole tangent movie about Yakuza guy and how he lost his fingers. So now it's left down to Brody, Girl, and Foreman. Brody, Girl, and Foreman. That's who we got. And then what do? They make Foreman fall into some stupid, like, he hits like a bear trap. Like, how many traps, dude? Like, not only that, they're going back to the ship. They're going back to the camp. How the hell do they know how to get back there? I mean, I don't care how good you are in the wild. You're in a jungle you don't know. You stumbled across the camp by following dogs. You were then led, like, you fell down a cliff into water, set up your own little, like, trap area way somewhere else to kill one of those gray things. Then you meet up with Fishburne. He takes you God knows how far to his little base, and you're like, we're just gonna go back there. And they make it there within like 20 minutes.
They're better navigators than Lewis and Clark.
I mean, honest to God, man. Like,
Lewis and Clark weren't even good navigators. They had Sacagawea.
I was gonna say, if Lewis and Clark had these guys, they would have found the West in like a day.
They would have gotten all turned around because Sacagawea would have stopped to fight something and die halfway the way just because she decided to die.
Right. So they somehow are on their way back to the camp. Foreman hits a bear trap, and Brody's great humanity moment. He's like, we gotta leave him. We just gotta leave him. Like, he's gonna be dead weight. They want us to care for this man. And in this moment, I was like, yeah, why does she? Because the girl's like, oh, I can't leave him. And it's like, and so here's the thing. I get what's going on story-wise. She talked about, like, her spotter when she was still on Earth. She watched him die and she didn't do anything, right? And Brody was like, well, we gotta do what we need to do to survive. And so I get it. Her internal struggle is like, I can't leave a man behind anymore. Because she had that same issue with Danny Trejo. Like, she's like, I can't just leave him. And he's like, well, that's on you. So now she's doing the same thing with Foreman. She can't leave someone behind because she saw someone die when she left them behind. Like, she just can't deal with... She's trying to reconcile that with herself. But you literally do not know these people from Adam. Like, Trejo was like a Colombian cartel guy, and you're worried for him. Like, now Foreman, who's a doctor, quote unquote, who talks about poisonous flowers and like can tell you the decomposition of a dead body because just by looking at it, apparently. Now you care for him? Like, if I were her, I'd be like, yeah, you're right. He's dead weight. Like, we gotta get the hell out of here. Like, let's leave him, because that's what he was saying. He was like, we'll leave him, we'll booby trap him, and they'll come. We can get out of here. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, sorry, bud. Fucking, it's your time.
Right. That's it. I mean, because the thing is like, these are all mercenaries and killers, dude. Like, what humanity do they have? Like, honestly. So she can't leave him. So Adrian Brody's like, all right, peace. I can leave him, and I can leave you. So he goes to he goes to the camp, and his grand plan, his great idea is like, I'll just get that predator that's up on the totem to tell me how to fly the ship, which works. Like, right? I don't know why. Like, he's like, hey, and the predator looks up, and he's like, you can understand me, can't you? He's like, well, no, he heard a noise, and he looked up. Like, I don't know if that means he can understand you or not, but he's like, I want off this planet. And he's like, I want to use that ship, the ship. And he's like, I'll cut you down. And so he cuts him down. Predator grabs him by the throat, and he's like, yeah, all right, cool, man. Let me just get my helmet. And like, he like puts his helmet on, and like, kind of starts the ship up and decloaks it for him. So Brody takes off, and then we have a showdown between Timeout Predator and Big Bad Predator. Big Bad Predator pretty much makes pretty quick work of Timeout Predator. And honestly, I wasn't surprised. Like, when I first saw the movie and I saw him take the Predator off the pedestal, I was like, well, he was put up there once already. Like, he clearly got his ass kicked. Like, why do we think this guy's gonna have any fighting chance? Like, it's meant to be like this moment of like, yeah, they got one on their side, but it's like, nah, he's just done in like a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So
he's another body.
Say what?
He's just another body again.
Right, yeah, he's just more cannon fodder. So Brody, like, has a moment of second guessing. He's like, well, I can't really leave the girl behind. And for whatever reason, again, his whole thing about, like, dead weight and everything, I work better alone. But now, suddenly you're human and, like, you're concerned because, what, you guys shared a moment talking about Hemingway? Like, it doesn't make sense. I'm gonna let you take the big reveal here for Foreman.
The big reveal for Foreman. Right, dude. Fucking out of nowhere. So, pretty girl baby carries this fine strapping young lad all the way into a hole, right?
They get caught in a net,
right?
And then the predator drags them to a hole.
Drags them to the hole. They're in the hole. They're trying to figure out how the hell they're gonna get out. She says, don't worry, my sweet baby boy, I'm gonna blow your brains out for you when it's time. It'll be quick, I promise. And he's over here with his little itty bitty knife that he got the neurotoxin on from before that the Russian man was gonna poison himself with. Somehow it's still on the knife. And he's being all and decides to, when she says it'll be quick, he's like, no it won't. He stabs her with it, freaks her all out, decides to give his whole, like, spilling my guts out, like, I'm actually a murderer, that's why I'm here and none of you could have figured it out. Haha, I tricked you, and now I'm going to be the one to kill you, and I'm gonna stay here with the other ones, as if they're not fucking hunting you too, asshole.
Right. Like they would accept him.
Like you're gonna be the next Lawrence fucking Fishburne of this planet. He just got killed too, motherfucker. What makes you think you're so special?
Well, what was weird is he was like, I like it here. And it's like, you like it here? You haven't eaten in like 3 days. Like, what do you mean you like it here?
You've only watched people die. Like,
right.
what are you talking about? You like it here. And you didn't help any of it at all. You have just been in the background hiding the entire time. Like, you have done nothing this entire movie. You didn't kill anybody, even though that's what you're apparently like best at. That's why they brought you here.
Right, you're a killer, right?
What makes you think you're gonna be you're the apex predator amongst all these other ones that are slaughtering thousands upon thousands of people for however fucking long they've been doing it? Like, you think you're already in a hole, a literal hole. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do?
Well, and that's the other thing too. Like, why did the predator just drop him in a hole and not kill them? Like, I mean, I get story, but like, the predators have just been killing these things outright, and he's just like, I'll save you guys for later. I gotta kill Brody first. Like, what? Like, So that's the stupidest thing ever, the dumbest reveal, and we honestly, in my opinion, I don't think his character was written that way at first. I think he was genuinely just supposed to be like a doctor or something that was just like brought there. I think they were supposed to probably have like more, like kind of like madcap people, just like all walks of life kind of stuff. And then I think once they got to a certain point of being like, well, we can't just have all these people that don't know how to do anything. So that's when I think, honestly, I personally feel like they kind of started changing some characters up. I think him and Convict Guy were probably like two of like the biggest like last minute changes, and even Yakuza Guy, like I feel like they were kind of like rewritten a bunch to like kind of make it make sense a little more, because like Foreman being like, I'm a doctor, and then being a murderer on the side, like, so what, so let me get this straight. The Predator is like, they're scouting out the planet, right? They're like at the college football game looking for their best players, and they're just following Foreman around as he kills people for a couple weeks or something. Like, is he a serial killer? Did he just kill his grandma and like take her social security checks? Like
how is he killing these people?
How is he killing people? Does he have neurotoxin all the time? I get he's a doctor. Maybe he can drug people and do stuff. Maybe he's like a Hannibal Lecter. We have no depth to his character.
There's nothing that really leads or lends to the belief that he is as capable of a predator as the rest. Like, everybody else has like some sort of like combat background that would lead you to think that, oh, these people know how to kill, and they know how to stalk prey, and they know how to hunt.
Right.
Like,
and by the by,
Combat Guy,
he was lame. He busted his leg from a bear trap, and then he was just like walking around all fine, like monologuing to her, being like, I'm a predator too, and like, like suddenly he's just fucking fine. So he could have just walked with them and been no problem. And the other side of that too, you know what would have served that character twist better is if we had like flashbacks to what everyone was doing. Like, sure, we land on the planet, everyone's figuring out like what the hell's going on, and then slowly if we had like cuts back to what everyone was doing before they got picked up, I think that would have played out a little better. And maybe there was intention for that, but it just never got done, or it had to be cut out. But like if we would have had like if his reveal would have been like the final flashback of being like him with a girl in his trunk or something, you know what I mean? Like, it would have gave more weight to the character, and you've been like, oh shit, like he's fucked up, like, but he's not fucked up in this role. Like, to me, watching his character in that twist, I was just like, what? Like so
why?
So just by sheer happenstance, you stop Nikolai from going to a poisonous flower. You take some of the neurotoxin poison onto your scalpel, which you have on you. You carry that around for a while, and then you decide last minute to like, I'm gonna scratch you on the chest with it so you get neurotoxin in you. And he didn't even know what it would do. Again, foreign planet, foreign plants. Like, because he seems surprised, like, oh, that's right, it's a neurotoxin. It's just like, what? Like,
how did you know that?
So Brody comes back, because of course he comes back, and like he's standing over them on the hole, and like you get the sense that he kind of sees what's going on, and somehow Foreman tries to play it off like, oh, you came back, like, thank goodness, help, she's hurt. And like, so he pulls them out of the hole, and he's carrying her around, and then Brody tells her, he's like, you're so busy worrying about others, you don't worry about yourself, or whatever. And it's like, that's never really, I mean, that's kind of been demonstrated, but I don't know if that's solely, like, is that like a problem she's had her whole life? Like, how do we know that?
How does he know that?
Yeah, like, so then Foreman's like, she never gave up hope on you. Like, this is where he's just getting like, he just, the writing takes the hardest turn for him, and he just starts going mega creep for like the last 10 minutes he's in the movie. And like, he's like, she never gave up on you, but he's like, I guess I was wrong about you. You really are a good man. And then he goes to try and stab him, and Brody's like, I'm not. And he stabs, like, he grabs his hand and like shoves the scalpel under his chin. And he's like, but I'm fast. And it's like, I don't know if that's meant to be like an awesome line or something. But like,
I'm not, but I'm fast.
But I'm fast. Like, all right, cool. Like, so how quick did you run the mile? Like what do you want me to say to that? Like, but I'm fast. So he stabs him, and then he booby traps him. He puts a bunch of grenades on his body. And I kind of like that part, too. The Predator comes up and just, like, pulls out his long sword and just kind of, like, stabs him in the back. Like, Foreman's just lying on the ground, like, looking dead, and he just stabs him, and Foreman's like, like, he just, like, squirts out some blood. He's like, I'm one of you. It's like, no, you're not, dude. So he turns him over, a bunch of grenades go off, blows up the Predator. And then, within a matter of minutes, Brody's slathered himself in mud. He has somehow, like, planned, like, a fire ring to explode around the Predator once he lights it. And he gives us the whole, come on, kill me, I'm here, come on, do it. And again, just to harken back to the first movie, and it's the payoff here is just stupid. Like, as stupid as that line is in the first movie, it is absolutely just misplaced here. Like, it makes no sense. And so
it's very shoehorned for
very
sure.
shoehorned, yeah. Like, it just because, again, it's like that was for us, the audience, and I hate that. More than anything in a movie do I hate things just being given to me, the audience. I am already here. You don't need to like spoon feed me things to keep me in my seat. Like, you just need to tell a good story. So he's super fast, and he runs around all fast, and he hits the Predator a bunch with an axe, which how it doesn't like slice him a bunch already, I'll never know. He hits him a bunch. Him and the Predator have a showdown. It's not even worth watching, to be honest. Like, the fight between the two of them is even more anticlimactic than the first one, because I had some complaints about the first fight being a little anticlimactic because of just like budgetary constraints and things like that. You can kind of tell, like, costume issues and stuff, and clearly the effects are far more on point in this movie.
Right.
You know, they obviously had way more money to work with, and just effects in general had come a long way. This is like 30 years later almost, so it all kind of works in that sense, but like, it just is really lackluster. And like, he one part that I really hate more than anything is he chops off the Predator's arm. And the one thing about Predators is they have that nuke or whatever in their wrist thing, right? So they can set the bomb off. And it's like, he does that, so there goes, like, that way we're, like, us as an audience are like, oh, well, I guess the Predator doesn't have that to fall back on. Like he can't blow it up now or whatever, like, you know, last-ditch effort kind of thing. But it's like, I don't know why he would choose to chop his arm off. Like strategically, maybe he was just like, oh, wristband, like, get that out of here. Like, I just don't get it. Like, it's meant to serve for the audience. And I hate that so much. Like, it doesn't serve the story at all. He decapitates the Predator, and that looked kind of cool. You know, the green blood and stuff's a cool effect. He goes and gets the girl, and like, it's weird, man, because then they're just sitting there. The camp's like burned. Predators are dead, and what happens? A bunch of parachutes start falling in, and like, so that's where I don't understand the time frame of a season. So it's like a season just a day, because like it's like the next morning since they've been there, and
that's
now
the other thing that we mentioned is, like, they were talking about the sun. It didn't move.
Right.
But then at the end of the movie, it was nighttime, and then all of a sudden it's morning again, and there's new parachutes falling. So how long were they even there? Is, like, there's some sort of interstellar kind of thing where, like, the perception of time is, like,
because of gravity
skewed.
or whatever.
Yeah, like, how does any of it work? There's no, like, real understanding of that, and then they're just ending walking off, being like, let's get the hell off this rock or whatever. It's just like,
right, we're gonna get off this planet. You
had your chance to do that, and you chose not to do it, to come back for this chick. For why? Like,
right. How are you gonna get off the planet now? There's no other ship. Like,
yeah, you wanted to be alone, on your own, the whole time, and you had your chance to get off the planet and go home like you wanted to, and you decided, nah, I gotta go avenge these people and get this one chick, and then we're both gonna be stuck here.
There is no hunting like the hunting of a man. Like, what's stupid is, and so then we also get the name reveals. I'm Royce, by the way. Royce. Fucking Royce, dude.
Oh my god.
And then she's like, I'm Isabella. Of course you're Isabella. I could have said you were Isabella in the beginning of the fucking movie. You're so goddamn generic. Like, but that's the thing, you're right. Like, there is no getting out of this. There's no escape. Aliens come and kick ass. There is no getting off the planet.
Even the guy that survived 10 seasons still died.
Right.
He still ended up dying. And he had survived longer than all the others. Everybody always just ended up dying. There's no way that they survived this. Is there another one that they're in after this? Like another Predator movie that
not that I'm aware of.
Then, like, what the fuck is the point of ending it like that? Just
exactly. That's my yeah. I've never. I mean, so I know that there was another Predator movie after this that takes place on Earth. That also has Dutch in it. So Schwarzenegger came back for that one. But he's not in it. He just had like a cameo. And then the most recent one is this movie Prey, which takes place, from what I can tell from the trailer, in like Native American, like 1700, 1600 period. So yeah, no, like there is no getting off this planet, and like that's the thing is like there's no hope at the end of this movie. The first movie ends with Dutch victorious, almost getting away with by the skin of his teeth, dodging that explosion. Which how did he dodge a nuclear bomb? I don't know, but that's neither here nor there. But like that that gave you something like, dang, like that dude's a badass, like he survived. I don't think Adrian Brody's a badass in this movie. I think he put on a little bit of muscle. He's still a twig. All I see when I see him is like a Wes Anderson film character or like The Piano. That's like all I see whenever I see Adrian Brody. And the fact that he tried to do this like tough guy badass turn for acting, I was like, get the hell out of here, dude. Like it just doesn't fit him as a person. I don't think he does it well. Sure, you can growl your voice, like awesome. Like it's just not believable. And the thing is like that's what sets them apart. You have something like Predator with Schwarzenegger and all these big, larger than life kind of people. Jesse Ventura, even the guy who played Mac, I can't remember the actor's name, but like even he was like a really big guy in real life too. But like these guys, Schwarzenegger is huge, and like the fight between Predator and Schwarzenegger made sense in the sense of like, okay, two big bodied things like going at it. Like I get that. But Brody being like, I'm fast, like I'm just gonna run circles around that thing and just smack him with an axe. Like it just doesn't sell. It just doesn't sell. Overall, the whole movie to me played way too much on the ideas of the first Predator and tried to make them tried to act as if they could do it better, or like make it make sense, or I don't know. Like I really don't know why half of the things from the first movie are in this movie. It really pisses me off. Like I know we talked about trying to keep this review short and we've gone an hour, but there's just too much to talk about. I can't not keep this short. This is not a brief thing.
It's wild.
To me, this one, honestly, like Yakuza guy scene was good.
Out of 10.
What is it?
Out of 10. What do you give it?
Oh man. The effects are good. I'm not going to deny that. I think the effects are great.
That's not what I asked.
No, I'm calculating. Hold on. The effects are good. I think the new Predator looks are cool. Overall, I mean, honestly, it's like a 2.5 maybe out of 10 for me.
Okay.
Because it's like it tried too hard. It just tried way too fucking hard and tried to pretend that it was the first movie when the first movie had so much more going for it.
Okay. I would give it probably, as somebody who's, still very infantile to the Predator franchise and had never seen any of these movies before, I'd give this probably a 3 or a 4, and a 4 is being generous.
Yeah, I think a 4 is being really generous.
I liked the effects and stuff were really nice, but
set pieces were cool too. I mean, honestly, a lot of the set pieces are cool. Whatever jungle they were in, it looked like maybe the redwoods even, to be honest. All of that looked really good. Like I feel like they used the environment well. Yeah, I feel like 4 is generous, but that's your call. Like so. The other side of it too is like I'll look at a movie, like if a movie's bad but makes me laugh because it's so bad, like that's a whole nother tier of like calculation. But this movie doesn't even do that for me. Like Predator 2 is bad, but it's funny bad. So like it's really over the top, just like the first one is. It's very over the top, and like we'll get into that one someday too. Maybe that'll be the next one we watch. But like it's really over the top. But to me, Predator 2 is still like a solid 5 or 6 compared to this. Like this is just, this was trying way too hard, and just honestly falling really flat. Like the ideas and stuff just didn't work. It just didn't work. We came up with 2 great stories beyond this already just by talking about it.
I think them coming and making this movie with, they have an agenda with it, like they know what kind of points they want to hit from the other movie.
Oh, definitely.
Like specifically, and they want to hit those points, and they gotta work their way around that, because they're trying to hit the nostalgia for people like you or older who have kids that they want to take to the theaters, show them this and be like, look, this is what I loved when I was a kid. And then they can be like, they said that in the first one. Now we share that together.
Right.
But like to do that and then it still be like to do that and that be the sake of like that's what the movie's for. Like there's no flesh around that other than like we're gonna make another Predator movie so people who saw the first one can see it with new young people to introduce them to our franchise, and we can make even more money because the people who saw it first are gonna see it anyway, even if it's shit. The kids are gonna see it and think it's the coolest shit in the world because guns and explosions and blah, and the cycle just continues. So I mean, they came into this with one motivation, and that was to sell Predator to a younger generation through the guise of nostalgia through the older generation. And they nailed that, and they also nailed making a shitty movie. So
well, and what's funny too, so this is coming off the heels of like Alien vs. Predator, which had 2 movies, Alien vs. Predator and then Requiem, and those were hot garbage. That's been a thing from like comic books, like Alien vs. Predator, Predator vs. Batman. I think there's a Predator vs. Wolverine. Like there's a lot, like it's a comic book thing, right? Like so, like it's meant to be outlandish and over the top, and I can forgive all of that, no problem. Those are like nice what ifs. But the Alien vs. Predator thing really just I've never been a fan of, and then especially when those movies came out, like it just it leaves a real awful taste in the mouth to see those. And so this I feel like was trying to kind of like get it back to Predator roots kind of, and so that in a way I guess could make sense of some of the tropiness of it. But even with that, it's just like so then the newer Predator that came out after this at least also tried to do like a new story, and I've never seen that one, to be honest. But from what I know, it's not like, you know, I've heard not great things, but like at least they were trying to tell a new story within the realm or within the world of the Predator and not trying to tie it to these other franchises. And so, you know, with that being said about this movie, I can at least give them that credit where it was like, all right, we're trying to get back to like Predator roots kind of. Let's just focus more on these Predators than anything else. But we didn't, you know, they tried to do like the slow reveal almost with the Predators, but because we've already had all these Predator movies, like that also doesn't work anymore. Like you can't do a slow burn in this movie anymore. Like so they came out the gate like falling out of the sky, being like whoa, shock and awe, but then tried to also have the same kind of like subtlety that the first movie had, and it just does. You can't have it both ways. So that's 2.5, 2 for me, somewhere around there. You know, just not. I can't say I didn't enjoy it because I liked watching it with you. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, you know, I mean, I enjoyed the experience, but the movie itself, like, sure, I own it, but like, I'm an idiot for film. Like, I love all movies to, you know, so of course I own it, but like, you know, it just doesn't. I think I liked this movie more when I first saw it because it harkened back to the old one, but then even after rewatching it more, I'm just like, yeah, that doesn't do it for me though. So. Overall,
they got your money, so it worked.
Yeah, I mean, true. This is true. But yeah, so overall, that's all I've got.
Shitty movie.
Did you have any other notes or anything on this one?
No, that we hit all the points that I wrote down.
Okay. Yeah, shitty movie. For sure, man. Well, cool. All right.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you everyone for tolerating us for an hour.
Outro?
Doing it now, bud.
Oh.
Thank you everyone for tolerating us for talking for an hour. Obviously a lot to unpack with this movie. I know we probably didn't cover all the things, and for people who like this movie, like, I'm sorry, you know, that's cool. This is all just opinion-based stuff. Why would be my question too. You know, leave a comment if you have something to say. Give it a like if you liked it. Be sure to subscribe so you can catch us reviewing the next Predator movie, because I'm pretty sure that's where we're going to go with this. I really do like sticking to a series, and I think that this is a good way to kind of just explore things in their entirety and the way they go. Because this was a big jump from 1987 to, I think this came out in like, God, I want to say 2011 or something. Like,
it was quite the jump.
Quite the jump. Yeah, I can't remember when it came out. I'll have to look that up. But yeah, man, Jesus. Predators did not deliver the way Aliens did, I'll tell you that much.